Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Stack and Perpetrator here. In this video we're going to do my thoughts on the fill a chest, fill a vessel, whatever you want to call it. It's my thoughts on the fill something challenge with constitutional. And this was inspired by doing this video. It was inspired by my thoughts on the 2022 congratulations set and what I thought of the gimmick that is. I've also done when I started doing videos, I did a video called My Thoughts on the Monster Box Challenge. I'll leave a link to both of those videos down in the description if you want to check those out. But I got inspired by that video, by the last one I did. And I thought about something with this challenge, and it's like with a lot of the challenges that are coming out by the community to start up. I think sometimes they start these challenges with good intentions, but I don't think they really thought it through and made it so that the average on a budget stacker could participate. Granted, the fill a chest or whatever item you choose to fill with constitutional, you know, you can size that down if you're paying attention and have a budget. You can go with something smaller. But I noticed a lot of the channels that I've watched, I don't think they actually thought it through when they decided what they were going to put their constitutional in. Now what you see before me is just one of these cheap jars that, you know, you kept sugar in or whatever. The top got broke on this one, or lost or something. I don't know what happened to it, but I use this for my everyday pocket change. Goes in here and I'll just show you. I carry every day when I leave the house to go out on a job, I carry 4 quarters in my pocket. I'm always, one, I'm never broke because I have the 4 quarters even though I may not have any bills in my pocket. Number 2, because every once in a while I have to feed a parking meter, and when you roll up to a parking meter, you're scrambling to find change to feed it with. So I always carry 4 quarters. That gets me all the time I need in the areas where I go where I may have to feed a meter. But all my other pocket change, I don't pull quarters out. I don't pull dimes. Everything that's left over is pure randomness pocket change that goes into this. Now you'll see that all the Lincoln sets are on the bottom and all the clad coinage is on top, and that's because I had my girlfriend, I had to run off and do some things, and her and her son sat down and they counted what was in this jar, and I'll let you take a look where the level is on this. It's not quite full. It was full because some of it was in a Ziploc bag and it took up a lot of space, but take the Ziploc bag out, count it up, and put it back in here. This is where we're at. The total on this was $35.59 face value. That's the pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters. The grand total of what's in here right now is $35.59. So just give you a visual reference. This thing is not, here's my letter opener, or here's a tube of quarters. You can see the size. It's a little, the mouth is a little wider than a tube of quarters on a squared, and if we stand a tube of quarters up, it's slightly higher than a full tube of a $10 roll of quarters. So just giving you a size comparison. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, I'm not bringing out all my constitutional to fill this, but I'm going to show you why sometimes these challenges are, while they have good intentions, if you don't think it through, you can put yourself in a position where you bit off more than you could chew. And I've only seen two channels that were realistic. I can't remember the one channel that I saw. He had a little bitty chest that, I don't know, maybe as wide as this, but not quite as tall. And his was rectangle instead of squared, so his would be a little shorter by the depth or the width of it. And then there's Silverstruck. He has a metal beer stein that he's trying to fill up. Those are the only two out of all the videos I've watched on this challenge that I think even have a chance of being done by the end of the year. So $35.59 in this jar. I'm going to dump it out. Pull that out. And that looks like a lot. Looks like more than it actually is. That's a big mound. That's a big mound of our clad coinage. Alright. So now I'm going to kind of brush that out of the way. We're starting with the empty jar. See, Rocky? Nothing up my sleeve. Empty jar. See? See through. No, on my hand right there. No camera tricks. We're going to add a $5 roll of mercury dimes. That was a $5 roll. We are then going to add a $10 roll. And I have these are sorted. These are all 60 through 64. Silver, full tube, $10. I'm going to add this to the mix. Come on everybody. See, we got everybody. No left behinds. There we go. Now we're going to add a $10 roll of Walkers that I have out of my stack. This is to show why I think everybody didn't think this challenge through, because you just saw 10, 20, and I'm sorry if I called this a $10 roll. This was a $5 roll. You just saw $25 of constitutional go into this jar. And it really is just barely covering the bottom of the vessel of this jar right here. I have no idea. I'm not going to pull out enough constitutional to see what it takes to fill that up. I imagine since there's 25 in there and we're right there, probably 50, 75, 100. This would probably hold $200 face value of constitutional silver and dimes, quarters, and pennies. I think what happened when they started this challenge, and where it kind of gets a little unrealistic, is you forget these little, you're not putting in, there's no copper pennies going in, and there's no Jefferson nickels going in. But when you think about it, that jar with $35.59 in it, if you transfer over to silver, the dime is smaller than a standard Lincoln cent, and they're pretty much the same thickness So I haven't done the calculations on this. I will let somebody else calculate, but you saw the jar was almost full. And I would have to I would actually have to go through and count the pennies that are in here. And this is all random. This was not set up. This was random pocket change. Every jar I've ever filled with constitutional, or with this clad coinage in the Lincoln cents, I've always had more pennies than anything else, more of the Lincoln cents. Then it's usually followed by, quantity-wise, by dimes and then quarters. Sometimes quarters will outpace the dimes as far as individually, not by monetary amount, but individually. Usually the dimes win out, then the quarters are third, and the nickels come in last. But if you took out all those pennies out of there and replaced them with just dimes, or even you could say that for every Jefferson nickel that's in the jar, I would have to say that would be the equivalent of 2 Mercury dimes, or for every probably I would have to say for every 3, you could get 2 quarters for every 2 extra quarters for every 3 Jefferson nickels in there. So you can see why this is this is just my thoughts on this challenge, and why I think people didn't think it through, and it's kind of a unrealistic challenge for especially the stackers that are on a budget themselves, and they can't just go out constantly, and just keep throwing money at this thing. Because like I showed you, I'm with $25 with 25 face of constitutional, and that's just dimes, quarters, and halves. It hardly makes a dent in the jar. That barely makes a dent in the jar compared to $35 of our clad coinage and Lincoln pennies. So anyways, let me know what you think down below, and we will see you on the next one.